All right, let's talk about building a win/loss analysis engine. And look, this isn't about creating more reports that nobody reads. This is a super practical, step-by-step playbook designed to save you one of your most valuable assets, your time.
So let's kick things off with an idea that might sound a little weird. The goal of win/loss analysis? It's not actually to increase your win rate. Well, at least not directly.
The real power here, the whole point of this, is efficiency. It's about saving you a ton of time and resources by learning to spot and avoid the deals you were never going to win in the first place. It's about focusing your energy where it's actually going to pay off. And that brings us to the first big idea here. Stop wasting cycles. Seriously, think of this analysis as your secret weapon for go-to-market efficiency, a way to guard your most precious asset, your team's time. So, where do we even begin? Well, we start with the unsexy but absolutely essential foundation, building a clean data set. I'm telling you, if you get this part wrong, everything else you build on top of it is just going to crumble. Okay, so to get started, you've got to pull a few key fields from your CRM. Yeah, close date and deal size, those are the obvious ones. But you also really need the stage it was at when it closed, who you were up against, and, this is crucial, the raw, totally unfiltered loss reason and the reps notes. And I'll be honest, when you first pull that raw data, it's going to look a lot like this, an absolute mess, right? You'll have the same competitor spelled 3 different ways, all sorts of different terms for the exact same loss reason. It's just not usable for analysis like this. Which brings us to probably the single most important step in this whole playbook. You have to normalize your data before you even think about analyzing it. Seriously. This step, where you standardize all those messy entries into one clean, consistent value, this is where the magic happens. This is where you actually build the engine. So how do you do that consistently? The answer is a codebook. And look, this doesn't need to be complicated. It's just a stable set of, say, 5 to 7 defined categories for your loss reasons. The key is keeping this list small and not changing it. That's how you'll be able to spot real trends quarter over quarter. Okay, so once your data is clean and all coded up, now we get to the fun part, turning all that data into actual action. This is where we stop just making passive reports and start actively shaping our strategy. And you know what? You don't need some super complicated, fancy dashboard to make your point. A lot of the time, a simple bar chart like this, showing your top loss reasons by both deal count and dollar value, is all you need. It makes the conclusions just pop right off the page, especially for a quick leadership summary. And this really gets to the heart of the whole thing. The stats, the charts, all that data, frankly, none of it matters if it doesn't lead to a decision. If nothing changes, what was the point? The only thing that matters is the action you take because of it. So how do you make it real? With a plan. Every single insight you find has to be turned into a real, concrete action. And that action needs an owner, and it needs a due date. If you don't have this, you're not doing analysis. You're just making reports. And these actions have to land in real places that affect the business. This isn't just some thought exercise, right? This is direct input that should be changing your messaging, refining who your ideal customer is, shaping the product roadmap, and updating your sales training. Okay, great. So now you've got a manual process that actually works. Now you can start thinking bigger. Let's talk about creating an automation roadmap, so this thing can run like a repeatable, efficient system instead of a one-off project every quarter. The easiest way to think about this is in 3 phases. Phase 1. You start out totally manual, probably in Excel or Google Sheets. Then you move to assisted, using tools like Power Query to automate the data pull. And way down the line, you could even have an agent, some sort of automation that pre-categorizes new deals for you to review. Hey, just a quick practical heads up here. As you start moving into that assisted phase, just know that some of the tools you might want to use, like connecting Salesforce directly to Power BI, they can require premium licenses. It's not a deal breaker, but it's definitely something you want to plan for in your budget. But remember, this win/loss data doesn't exist in a vacuum. To make it super powerful, you've got to connect this intelligence back to your sales enablement. That's how you create this awesome continuous improvement loop for the whole team. Here's the best way I've found to think about this. Your competitive intel, that tells you what changed out in the market. You know, a competitor launched a new feature or something. But your win/loss data, that proves what actually matters to buyers in the real world. You absolutely need both. All right, we're in the home stretch. Let's talk about how to execute this, and more importantly, how to avoid the common pitfalls. This is the final check to make sure your program actually delivers real value.
Okay, pitfall number 1, and this is probably the biggest mistake people make. Are you just taking those rep-entered loss reasons from the CRM drop-down menu as gospel? You can't. You have to dig into the notes, talk to the reps, and validate what's really happening. A lot of times that drop-down reason is a total head fake.
Pitfall number 2, you're not properly segmenting your analysis. Look, if you're just looking at all your losses in one big giant bucket, you're going to draw some really broad and probably wrong conclusions. You've got to slice that data by customer segment, by deal size, by competitor to find the real story. And pitfall number 3 brings us right back to the most important point of all. Does every single insight have an owner? Is there a clear action tied to it? If the answer is no, then you don't have a win/loss engine. You just have a reporting hobby. I'm serious. Analysis without ownership is just background noise. So let's just boil this all down to the 3 keys to success. Number 1, build that clean, normalized dataset from the start. Number 2, keep your codebook small and stable so you can track trends over time. And number 3, the big one, turn every single insight into a concrete action with an owner. And there you have it. That's the playbook. So the only question I have for you is, now that you have the framework, what's the first inefficient, time-wasting cycle in your own world that you're going to go after and eliminate?